Good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions in Boston community. Shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. This is episode 27 of Bayou Sports Talk. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host for the day, Raymond. What's good with you, Raymond?
What's up? Nothing much. Chilling, blessed, highly favored. Glad to be alive. Glad to be doing show number 27. Excited to talk about the subjects we're gonna talk about today. So let's get this show on the road.
All right, before we get into our actual topics, first thing we want to address in terms of HBCU news, it is official. Coach Willis Simmons has left FAMU to join the coaching staff at Duke University, where he will be the running backs coach. So Coach Willis Simmons has officially left FAMU. In addition to that, Southern University, they making strides to improve their roster. They've been making a lot of offers to a lot of different players so they could be ready for the second phase of National Signing Day. And in addition to that, Texas Southern has not officially named a head coach. Basically, they're still trying to figure out who it's going to be. More than likely, it's going to be former Alcorn State head coach Fred McNair. But as of right now, still Fred McNair and Andre Johnson, former wide receiver for the Houston Texans, they still jockeying for position, but more than likely it's going to be Fred McNair. We'll see when Texas Southern Board of Regents is going to officially get everything straight. Before we throw into our topics, shout out to my brother, Jared 11 Green. Appreciate you, bro, for tuning in with us. And we appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us since day one. So appreciate the support. Our first topic for the day. LSU had a very impressive comeback win against Wisconsin for their bowl day game. Raymond, what are your thoughts on LSU performance in that particular game?
So the performance by LSU in that game was kind of surprising, but wasn't surprising. I was expecting and hoping that LSU dominated, which I should have known based on how they played this entire season. That wasn't going to happen. Or how bad the defense is, and Garrett Nussmeier is, he's not a new quarterback, but he's not the typical starting quarterback. So this is not the Jaden Daniels LSU football team that what a defense could lean heavy on Jaden Daniels to put up numbers and they could kind of just suck and it will go unnoticed. But it was a good game. It showed that LSU has their next guy, Garrett Nussmeier. Even like last year when Jaden Daniels got hurt in the SEC championship game and Garrett Nussmeier had to step in and he started slinging the ball like against Georgia. Of course, they didn't win the game, but it showed people like he's a gunslinger, like Brett Favre. So this game he had the entire game to show us what he can do, and he definitely did. He led a game-winning drive, so we have our guy. So the game was pretty good. I feel like the offense will not be as great next year as it was this year, but they got some weapons returning, but not their main weapons
Yeah,
returning.
like Malik Neighbors, he's not coming back.
And BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. One of his teammates was begging him. I think that was Kyron Lace, who from Thibodeau was kind of be like, he was telling him after the game, come back next year, come back next year. But Brian Thomas Jr. gonna get his money, and I don't blame him. But I kind of want to throw something in. I think his name's Shaz Preston from St. James.
Yeah. We talked about him New Year's Day.
Yeah, he's transferring, and I got a feeling that he might come to LSU because, that gunslinger need a weapon to throw to. Kyron Lacy is good, but can't do it by himself. So, if Shaz Preston, comes back home to LSU, I'm pretty sure that'll be a good addition. And the one last thing I kind of want to throw is LSU got a new defensive coordinator from Mizzou. I forgot his name. I have to go look it up. I think his name is Blake Baker. Mizzou defense really wasn't, that dominant to me, but I guess, you could do anybody else would be better than Matt House, who LSU had this year, the
Yeah.
defensive coordinator. So that's good. But as far as that game, I was impressed. With what I've seen and things that I was expecting, I'm impressed. Not like dramatic, not like drastically impressed, but it's like I feel like LSU is still in good hands with Brian Kelly, and they got a quarterback, and Garrett Nussmeier. So
Okay. Before I give my take, shout out to the homie J Ball. Salute Coach 67 and Ray. Salute to you, bro. Appreciate you for dropping in and showing us some support. In terms of my impressions, of course, we were at mom's house for New Year's Day. All the family was gathered around. And truthfully speaking, the way it was looking, like LSU really wasn't going to pull it out for a moment. It seems as if like Wisconsin, had everything going in the right direction. And in terms of Gary Nussmeier, you're very accurate because I remember at the beginning of last season when they played against Southern, the second game of the season, of course, Southern, the first game, they smacked Florida Memorial and LSU lost to Florida State. So it's coming into the second game. And of course, Jaden Daniels did what Jaden Daniels does. He was very impressive. It was 3rd and 10, and he started scrambling. He rolled right, ran a touchdown against Southern. So, it was obvious that, Jaden Daniels is that guy. Gary Nussmeier came in the game, threw 2 interceptions. One of them was a pick six. So, as a Southern fan that likes LSU, I'm like, this guy, he really. But like you were saying, I was watching the SWAC championship game, and of course Jackson State was beating Southern. I flipped back to the SEC championship game, and I saw that Jaden Daniels had got hurt, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're in trouble. And the way he played in that game, Raymond, he played well, and I was pleasantly and thoroughly surprised at how well he played in that particular game. So you're right. I think they are in good hands. The defense is nowhere near the defenses of old. You don't have, guys like Chad Lively and Glenn Dorsey. LSU has had so many dogs over the years on the defensive line, linebackers in the secondary, Honey Badger. Just I could go on and on just naming like elite level defensive players in LSU's defense. And LSU defense is the complete 180 of what those defenses were. Those defenses were physical, they were aggressive, they were dominant, locking offenses up. This LSU defense, they can't stop a nosebleed. And that was the reason why Wisconsin had so much success. But, they were able to pull it out the fire. And like you say, guys like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., Jaden Daniels, those guys that go on the greener pastures to go on to play in the NFL. And one point you made about Chaz Preston, of course, his dad, Sean Preston, played at Southern University. He was a fullback. He was a coach for a lot of years. Head coach at Assumption at one point. Was a coach at St. James. So, he has that. He has those genetics, that DNA. And in addition to that, like you said, he played at St. James High. He's a hometown guy. So hopefully he can help get LSU's offense to the next level in terms of, giving Nussmeier another weapon to throw them. And that's one thing about LSU. They've been known to have these dynamic duos over the years, whether it's Jefferson and Chase, whether it's Beckham and Landry. So they've been known to have these 1-2 punches in terms of, they've played well together, this, that, and the third. So maybe they could, after Neighbors and Thomas, maybe they could get their next 1-2 punch. So, like you said, it was excellent comeback win for LSU. Any other closing thoughts on this particular topic, right? Anything you want to add?
Not too much, is Brian Kelly second year and got a second 10-win season. So the only thing is up. Once you're at LSU, you can't go back down. You got to continue to go up, So that's it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Our next topic is the national championship game. Of course, we know that University of Washington, University of Michigan. They playing against each other head to head in the national championship game. What are your thoughts, and who do you think is going to win the game?
Like I've been saying, man, I think Washington gonna take it. Oh, something about Michael Penix Jr., bro. I always kind of like liked him. Of course, I didn't like him more than Jaden Daniels because over obvious bias reasons, and for that reason, I kind of used to want to during the season. I wanted Michael Penix Jr. to kind of play bad a little bit so he wouldn't get more notoriety than Jaden Daniels. But once Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, I'm like, all right, I could full out root for Michael Penix Jr. now. And since Jaden Daniels won the Heisman, and LSU not going to be winning the national championship, I'm like, I want Michael Penix Jr. to win the national championship. And you could see with the game he played against Texas, he can be that. Like, he was dropping dimes. You would have think this guy was a piggy bank the way he was dropping dimes, dog. So like he could throw. He's a good pocket quarterback. Not trying to sound like not trying to stereotype my own people, but he can run, but he's not that running type of quarterback. But he sure could drop dimes, and it's like you could tell he got that kind of competitive edge in him, almost like a Tom Brady-esque. Like, I'm not about to lose. I'm gonna get what needs to be done so we can win. So I was really impressed with him. But at the same time, Michigan, dog, when you look at how Michigan defensive line dominated against Bama, oh my gosh, bro. Hey, that defensive line was something nice. Now I see why Michigan has been undefeated for all this time. Unlike SEC play, sometimes it's hard to figure out and fully see why some of those other schools are so good, like a LSU or Alabama or Ole Miss. All those dudes in the SEC got top talent. So you could easily see, like, okay, this team is good because they got a good passing game. This team is good because they got a stout defense. But teams like sometimes like Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, sometimes it's kind of hard to tell where like the prime of their team is. But watching that game, man, you could obviously see that it's on the D line, bro. It kind of reminds me of how the Eagles got to the Super Bowl. I believe was it last year when they played the Chiefs and ended up losing. The Eagles got to that Super Bowl because they had a phenomenal pass rush, which significantly aided their defensive backs. But Washington has a good old line, but I feel like I'm sticking with my team. I feel like Washington, gonna take it. Michael Penix Jr. gonna go out on top, and hopefully the Saints draft Michael Penix Jr. or Jaden Daniels, one of them. But that's what I got.
Yeah, and before I give you my thoughts on the national championship game, uh, my brother Jared 11 Green, he was saying basically he was right about Michigan winning, but wrong about Texas because he thought it was going to be Michigan and Texas in the national championship game. He gave some real good insight and his analogy and his observation in terms of how he thought it was going to play out between Alabama and Michigan. But of course, he was wrong when it came to Texas. But in terms of my thoughts, I'm gonna be truthful. I was kind of shocked that both Washington and Michigan won. I think it's poetic justice because, truthfully speaking, I felt like the University of Texas and Alabama, they really didn't belong in the playoffs as far as I was concerned. One of those, at least one of them, I probably say you could kind of go either way. Some people were saying that they felt like Georgia and Florida State should have occupied those two spots. And the crazy thing about it is the way it played out. Essentially, they put Georgia against Florida State to make it look like they really didn't belong in that particular context. But in terms of the game itself, like I said, I was surprised by Michigan. And in addition to that, like you said, Michael Penix Jr., he played well. And like you said, he dropped a lot of dimes. He showed, I don't know if you remember old school quarterback Warren Moon. He kind of gave me a little bit of those vibes. I'm not saying he's going to be that good because it's, in my estimation, I think Warren Moon is probably the most underrated quarterback in NFL history. Definitely one of the greats. But, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to kind of go in the opposite direction. I want Washington to win. However, more than anything, I think Michigan is going to be uh, Michigan going to be hard to deal with. I think they're going to be able to do what they do on the offensive end and on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to basically Washington's not going to be able to have all those long passes against Michigan the way they did against Alabama. I think um, I'm sorry, against Texas, because basically Michael Penix, he had a lot of long passes uh against the University of Texas. Whereas on the flip side, you know, basically Bama couldn't do nothing with Michigan. So I think it's gonna be a great game, but I think more than anything, I think Michigan gonna pull it out. Now I hope Washington wins it, but we'll see how things play out. But I'm picking Michigan. I think it's gonna be a great national championship game. Uh, I don't think it's gonna be all classic, the way that Michigan Alabama game was in the playoff. I don't think it's gonna be that type of classic. I think it's gonna be, a good, solid, decent game, but it's not gonna be one of those, great games uh, that's gonna go down in the history book. So, anything you want to talk about in terms of closing off this particular topic? Anything you want to add, to what you gave earlier?
No, not really. Yeah, I feel like I said everything that I wanted to say about my prediction. Yeah, Washington. But yeah, I guess I could add this. Since Washington got a good old line and Michigan's D line is like ferocious. I
Uh huh.
guess that's gonna be what you really want to watch. The battle gonna be in the trenches. I guess you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a excellent observation. But that closes out that particular topic. Next topic. Uh, Pelicans. They dropped a game last night against the LA Clippers. Prior to that point, the Pelicans had it rolling. The big win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Zion had a highlight block against Anthony Edwards. Uh, but of course, seems like they get it going, and then they drop a game here and there. Uh, of course, prior to that, prior to the game against Timberwolves, they had a excellent win against the Lakers. So, what do you think about their loss to the Clippers, and prior to that, the way they had it going in the right direction?
This usually how like the NBA works. A team goes on a 4 game, 5 game win streak, then you drop one, then they'll go back on a win streak. You got 82 games, so they're not gonna go 82-0, or like they're not gonna win 56 straight. So I'm not tripping too much on them losing. They dropped to number 7. I think there was number 5, but when you look at the standings, it's like everybody's so close. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of like something on the side. The fact that the Pelicans played in the in-season tournament might have hurt them a little bit because that gives them an extra loss, which kind of hurts their like the win percentage, which determines where they stand in the standings. So I could be wrong, but I noticed that kind of hurts them a little bit since they played that extra game in the playing tournament. They got like an extra loss. But
I
I'm
mean, I, I don't know how the standing with that really go or play out. Um, I mean, to me, the in-season tournament, just the whole thing itself was baffling. But I
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off. Proceed.
that's cool. Now I just had a question. I didn't know if that was. I don't know if they might take those games out and like not include it when determining spots in the playoffs, but that essentially seemed like that might hurt teams that played in the play-in tournament. It's going to give them one extra loss if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how that really kind of factors in when it comes to the in-season tournament. The whole in-season tournament, itself was kind of baffling to me.
Right. Wait, I made a mistake and say NC. I meant to say like playoffs, like the.
No, well, I know it's like I said, I know what you meant, but in terms of the extra in-season tournament game, how is it going to affect the standings for the playoffs? And like I said, the whole in-season tournament, it just was baffling more than anything.
Yeah, like it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
But
it really didn't.
but
So like I mean, you right from the standpoint, we know teams are not gonna go 82-0, you know, but in terms of what you thought about them having it going in the right direction, and then they drop a big game to the LA Clippers.
I mean, I mean, of course, you don't never want to say you won't feel good about a loss, but it's not nothing alarming where, like, you know how they lost those two games to Memphis, where they had a big lead and they let them come back twice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was very alarming to me because I'm like, nah, bro, that's like real suspect. Like, I ain't like that. But like, since they got a win streak going on, I'm like, all right, y'all done won 4 games, y'all looking solid again. It's not like they don't won 4, then they went and lost 4. Now, if the Pelicans lose the next 3 games, then y'all gonna start worrying and tripping again. But I feel like it's kind of like that. With the NBA, you're gonna have to you're gonna drop one every now and then, but I feel good about them now. Especially, it looks like I could be wrong. I don't really watch the Pelicans games as much based on where I live at. I can't really watch them. I plan on actually going to the game. Soon they come into my area, my current neck of the woods. But yeah, I look at the highlight block. I look at the stats. It seemed like Zion kind of back to his form whatnot. He dropped 27 points in that game that we just lost. So stats wise, and it seems like some physicality wise, Zion getting back to that form. But I feel like we still in a good place. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we're not like the Lakers. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to be worried about another team, but the Lakers got some issues to deal with, And like you were saying earlier, the in-season tournament was stupid. The Lakers won the in-season tournament, but they might not be in the playoffs. So like, what was the point of being we're in-season tournament champions? And it's like you don't even make the playoffs. I seen people saying Kobe Bryant was still here. Kobe Bryant would be looking like you don't even care about that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
The fact that they raised that banner, Kobe Bryant would have been insulted by raising the in-season tournament banner. It's to him it would have been the most ridiculous thing ever. And you brought up a valid point in terms of not to, like you said, not to worry about other teams, but the Lakers are in shambles right now. They were talking about firing Darvin Ham, who's their head coach. But I think more than anything, I think in terms of like the rotation, to me, Torian Prince and Jared Vanderbilt and Cam Reddish, I think they're decent players, but they're not starters in the NBA in my estimation. I think the lineup that really got them to the playoffs last year with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura and LeBron and AD, I think that's the lineup he needs to go back to. And I think the fact that, you got Gabe Vincent from the Miami Heat, he kind of would be my sixth man off the bench at the point guard spot, whether, you have him and D'Angelo Russell in the game together or you have him and Austin Reeves in the game together. And then I would either put Christian Wood or Jackson Hayes at maybe 4 or the 5 or 4 and 5 spots. And I would just kind of run with it like that. But, Torian Prince, I think he was good when he was with the Hawks. Jared Vanderbilt, he a hustle guy. Cam Reddish, but those guys are not starters in the NBA, in my opinion. But in terms of, the Pelicans, I mean, they really had, some mojo going. They had an excellent performance against the Lakers. I'm not going to lie. Jose Alvarado, he played excellent in that game. He had a huge steal against LeBron. Jackson Hayes was posting him up and he took the ball from him. He had, he had multiple big plays in the game. To me, I think, his energy off the bench, it kind of gave him that boost and that shot in the arm that they needed for that particular game. Also, Larry Nance Jr. is back. He played well in that particular game. And like you said, it kind of seems like in terms of, Zion, he playing good. I don't think he's back to where he really was when he really had it going last year when they were the number one seed. I think more than anything, I'm gonna be truthful. I think he's still kind of playing a lot of talent. You know, we always talk about certain players in terms of, mindset. We just talked about Kobe. They was talking about, not to kind of veer off into another topic, but they was talking about, players in terms of where they should be all the time. Whereas someone like a Vince Carter, people don't realize like he had all time great talent, but he didn't have all time great work ethic. Whereas somebody like Kobe, his work ethic is kind of what pushed him, ahead of a lot of people. And hopefully Zion can get to that point. I'm gonna be truthful. I think I kind of see him more in a Vince Carter type lane, somebody that's immensely talented, and maybe he could come close to doing certain things. But since he really don't have that drive and that work ethic, he's not gonna really get to that next level, if that makes sense. But I think overall, as the Pelicans, I think the fact that the Pelicans have so many weapons, like you say, even though they dropped the game against the Clippers last night, I think it's just kind of a blimp. I don't think it's no major thing, nothing to be alarmed and concerned about. They're trending in the right direction, which I like. But more than anything, I think the fact that you have so many good pieces, with Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado,
Trey
uh,
Murphy.
Trey Murphy, Larry Nance Jr., Jonas Valanciunas. I mean, they have realistically, in all actuality, they have too much depth. And Rude Dog and I was talking about this behind the scenes. He was saying at some point, like maybe you might have to move some of your smaller pieces for like a bigger piece, or
Right.
maybe you might have to let somebody like Jonas Valanciunas go at some point.
Yes.
Because more than anything, it's like they got so many good players. And like he was saying too, like when that second unit comes in, with the Larry Nance Jr. and Jose Alvarado, those two players in particular, like they give those starters like a shot in the arm. And we even talked about Herb Jones. We was like, hey, we look at like Najee Marshall and Trey Murphy and Hawkins and those type of guys. Like, hey, should Herb Jones be starting? And he was like, Herb Jones is a lockdown defender, even though from an offensive standpoint, he might not be a 3-and-D type player, like maybe like a Trey Murphy or one of those type of guys. In terms of him just being an elite level defender, like you have to have Herb Jones in with the first unit. So basically, that's what we was talking about. And even though they lost against the Clippers, I don't think it's the end of the season or nothing to wholly they had now. Like you say, at least they're not like the Lakers in terms of them trending in the wrong direction. They're trending in the right direction. It was a bump in the road, right, and hopefully they get back on the winning track. But anything you want to add to our discussion about the Pelicans?
No, I don't really have anything else to add.
All right, our last and final topic. Our New Orleans Saints tomorrow, they're going to play against the Atlanta Falcons. And this is the major issue. We didn't think they were going to win last week. Like Randall was saying, they had been gaslighting us. So the NFL, the way they have these tiebreakers, because over the years, the way they did it at one point, if the Saints and the Bucks played early in the season and the Saints lost to the Bucks, then the second game they beat the Bucks. Like the Saints would have to head to head because they won the second game or whatever the case may be. But it seems as if now they go more by the division record in terms of the NFC. And we talked about this earlier during the course of the season. Like some of these close games, basically they come back to bite you in the behind. Them come back losing that game to the Packers, them losing again to the Falcons that they shouldn't have lost, them losing again to the Rams. Because even with the Rams, we know had they won out, they control their own fate. But now at this point, not only do you need to beat the Falcons tomorrow, but in addition to that, you need the Carolina Panthers to beat the Tampa Bay Bucks, which we know more than likely is not going to happen. So, do you think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons tomorrow? And in addition to that, do you think they'll make the playoffs?
Yes, I feel like we're more than capable of beating the Falcons. I actually think they will beat the Falcons. But I feel like we have a better chance of making the playoffs as a wild card than making it as winning a division. Because to make it in through the wild card, I could be wrong, but I know we need the Seahawks. I know we need the Bears to beat we need the Bears to win. Whoever the Bears playing, we need the Bears to win. And I think we need either the Seahawks or the Packers or one other team to lose. And I was looking at it. I'm like, that seems more realistic, depending on the Bears to like win a game in some other team rather than depending on Bryce Young. But man, who knows? Bryce Young beat the Falcons earlier this season. So he could possibly, beat the Bucks. But when the Bucks played the Falcons last week, uh it looked like come on, man, what's his name? Baker Mayfield got hurt. And of course, I don't wish injury on nobody. I don't get happy nobody get hurt or anything like that. But it seemed like Baker Mayfield was like seriously hurt. And I'm like, oh man, that looked like that might help the Saints because if he's not able to play against the Panthers, they'll really give the Panthers a better chance at winning. But is this a home game for the Bucks or are they playing that in Charlotte?
If I'm not mistaken, I think they're playing in Tampa, but truthfully speaking, I'm not gonna lie, it's Carolina. I don't think it really matters whether they are at home or on the road, because I think the Panthers only won like 2 games this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And the crazy thing about it, on Instagram, I saw, it's starting to be a new trend, but I see it a lot because I go to all the Southern home games where, the teams come out and they go to the opposite end zone and they kneel and pray, the way Southern does.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they go kneeling and praying, and literally, I guess ticket prices must be low. But some hood guys from Carolina, I don't know, they from Charlotte, wherever they from, they heckling the Panthers players and they Panther fans. And I mean, they heckling them real bad.
I seen that.
Like, yeah, y'all need to pray. Hey, you doing all that, you trying? I'm like, man, bro, this is your team. So it was ridiculous, but I don't think it really matters. Like, hey, if they're at home or on the road, but finish up what you were saying, Raymond.
Oh man, yeah, I feel like we probably got a better chance of making the playoffs as a wild card. But I feel like the Saints definitely could win. Derek Carr looked like he's starting to find his groove. Some people say he finally got back fully healthy. He's starting to make throws that make sense. You know what I'm saying? But it seems like Alvin Kamara is hurt and stuff like that. But it looked like everything was hitting at all cylinders. The defense, special teams, offense. It looked like they was kind of letting Tampa Bay creep back in towards the end because I guess they must have got comfortable. But for the majority and the entirety of that whole game, the Saints was clicking at all cylinders, and I feel like they're going to do it again. It's just, man, only if you would have done this early in the season, we wouldn't be depending on freaking Bryce Young and other teams to lose. Nobody likes depending on other people, truthfully. And it's like, if you would have got done what you needed to get done, you'd be like, either you could possibly be resting your starters, or you could be like, we just win and we all good, And I mean, it seems like that's what it is for the Bucks. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Bucks is like they got an easy one in. It's like, bro, we just got to beat the freaking Panthers, because them boys took care of business. Even though they don't got, I believe we got the same record as them, or they might have one more win than us. But it's like they still took care of business.
It's the same record.
They got the same record, but it's like they took care of business, bro. They won that one extra conference game, and we didn't. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm saying, like, I hope they win. I want them to win. I expect them to win, but I'm not expecting us to be in the playoffs. So I'm gonna get all the temporary enjoyment from this current, team that we watching right now. I don't know if you've seen this. I want to kind of add this as well. A lot of players on the team are getting their contracts restructured. So I don't know what I know. The Saints tend to, start dealing with financial stuff and like contracts and stuff like early, but they starting to make people take pay cuts. So hopefully they make Derek Carr take a huge pay cut, and hopefully it seems like they might be trying to go get somebody in the draft. Hopefully, and I seen a video on Instagram where Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels was like talking to each other on live, and like Jaden Daniels was asking Malik Neighbors like, man, we're a package deal. We're a package deal. almost like how Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase was. Like
Yeah.
Joe Burrow went, that's what Jamar Chase and Malik Davis was like, nah, I'm not going to the Saints. And I'm like, what made him say that? Almost if like, they kind of know, like, hey, bro, we already know the Saints gonna try to come get you. So hey, the Saints do that, they might buy DA an extra year if he drafts Jaden Daniels and stuff like that. But and hopefully it is a package deal where we get Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and team them up with like Shaheed and A.T. Perry and Olave, you know. But there's just some extra stuff that don't got nothing to do with the Saints playing the Falcons tomorrow.
Well, actually, I kind of disagree with you. I think what you said is very relevant because I'm gonna address this kind of on the back end. But in terms of the Saints and the Falcons, I'm gonna be truthful. Over the years, as a Saints fan, like these the type of games the Saints typically win. Like when it's like when you need this help. Like you said, first of all, there were games that they should have won early in the year where if they won those games, like the comeback loss to the Packers, you know, I think that game kind of made Jameis Winston go back to the Jameis Winston of old because in that particular game, when Carl got hurt, they were rolling, they had it going, and he came in the game, and instead of like letting him beat Jameis, they kind of game managed him, and all he did was hand the ball off, hand the ball off. They were extremely conservative on the offensive end, and as a result, they kind of left their defense on the field too long, and the Packers came back, and then once it got to a point where they really did need him, now he got to turn it back on. Well, not turn it back on, but turn it on. He had to turn it on. He led him down the field, for a field goal winning drive, and then of course the kicker missed the field goal, and that was the end of the game. They lost by that 1 point. So games like that, of course, the earlier game against the Bucks, they played like trash. They lost to the Rams. So all of those games, those games come back to bite you in the behind. When you needed that extra win to the point where you can control your own destiny, now you need to beat the Falcons and you need to rely on, other teams. And as a coach, I always hated that. I used to tell my players like, hey, look, if we handle our business, if we take care of the things we need to take care of, we're not going to need to rely on help from this team and from that team and from this team at the end of the season. You don't want to be in that position where, all right, we win our game. Now we hoping and praying that this other team lose. So I think more than likely, I think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons. But the issue is, in terms of the wild card scenario, I don't see them getting in as a wild card team is because of the fact that you lost to the Rams and some of those other wild card teams in front of you, like they have the competitive advantage on you because you lost. So like I see, like a team, for example, like the Rams. So the Rams, I mean, they're ahead of you in terms of the wild card picture. Now, in terms of winning the actual division, like I said, I mean, you need the Carolina Panthers, who only won 2 games this entire season. Now, don't get me wrong, they already locked up the first pick in the draft, so that's cool. But they have no incentive to win. If anything, they might just lay down and give it to the Bucks because even if they fight as hard as they really could, they still probably not gonna beat the Bucks anyway. And what you bring up about Baker Mayfield being injured, I did kind of notice that at the end of the game, like, hey, he got hurt pretty bad, but I mean, their playoff hopes are on the line. So unless he tore his ACL or he broke his leg or something along those lines, I think anything like that's not that severe, I think more than likely, I think Baker Mayfield is going to play. I think the Bucks are going to win, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. And I think you brought up a valid point in terms of hopefully they get Jaden Daniels. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you talked about earlier in the show, like, hey, maybe they can get Michael Penix Jr., but truthfully speaking, if I had to choose between the two of them, I want Jaden Daniels. There's no two ways about it. Now, in terms of Dennis Allen, I'm going to be truthful. Rude Dog and I, we talked about this on New Year's Day. If it was me, if I was Garrett Benson, I think the problem with if you beat the Falcons but you don't make the playoffs, yeah, you have a winning record. You're 9-8, but to guarantee yourself to make the playoffs, whether you're in the AFC or the NFC, you got to get hit at least that 10-win mark. If you get those 10 wins, you kind of guarantee more than likely you're gonna make the playoffs. There's no guarantee, but more than likely you're gonna make the playoffs. And I think that's the thing about it. The fact that you're gonna have a winning record, I think it's gonna give people like that false hope, like, yeah, guess what? Of course, like you say, players already started restructuring contracts. They already like creating cap space for next year. More than likely, I don't think they're gonna use that cap space to bring in somebody. I think more than likely, probably gonna use that cap space to bring back one of these old washed up veterans they have, like maybe the Honey Badger, one of those type of cats. I hope I'm wrong, but knowing the way the Saints have operated over the year, that's what they're gonna do. And I think even though they didn't make the playoffs, it's gonna give them this false hope. Like, yeah, hey, we just came one game short, and next year we're gonna win a division and woo. And me personally, I feel like if they don't make the playoffs, I think you definitely should get rid of Dennis Allen. But like one of my coaching friends was saying, he was like, basically, coach, he said, I think the issue is more than anything, I think Dennis Allen and Derek Carr joined at the hip. You're stuck with Derek Carr for at least one more year. So I think more than anything, especially since they probably gonna, be over, one game over 500, more than likely they're probably gonna bring Dennis Allen back too. To me, I think this is the worst thing. I think you should get rid of him. You should start afresh. You should bring in somebody like an Eric Bieniemy. Even if, I know it's South Louisiana, more than likely they probably won't, have a black head coach. I'm not just be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But more than anything, even if you don't bring in somebody like him, I'll be willing to take somebody like Belichick if him and Patriots part ways. I even take him. But we'll see how things play out. Hopefully they can make the playoffs, but I'm gonna be realistic. I'm a realist. More than likely, they probably beat the Falcons, and then the Panthers lose to the Bucks. The Bucks make the playoffs. I think the Rams probably gonna get that wild card spot in the.
The Rams already got it. The Rams got the number one wild card spot.
All right, so I mean, that second spot is gonna be interesting, but I'm gonna be truthful. I don't see the Saints getting it. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but to me, if they don't make the playoffs, I think they definitely, no two ways about it. If they don't make the playoffs, they should definitely part ways with Dennis Allen. But we'll see, how things play out. But anything else you want to add in terms of like the playoff picture for the AFC, the NFC, or just anything NFL in general?
No, I got the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, and I got the 49ers going to the Super Bowl. I got the Eagles collapsing in the wild card round. I think the Cowboys are gonna win the division for the NFC East, and I think people gonna think the Eagles gonna make a run, but I feel like the Eagles gonna collapse first round in the playoffs, probably to somebody maybe like Detroit or the Buccaneers, because they most likely whoever doesn't win the NFC East and like whoever comes in second, that's who gonna be playing the NFC South champions. But I just got a feeling they're gonna collapse to whoever they play. If it's the Bucks, I got a feeling they're gonna collapse to the Bucks. If we mess around and make it, I feel like they might collapse to us. I'm just putting that little bold prediction out there that I feel like the Eagles gonna collapse in the playoffs. That they're gonna go out there and they just gonna it's gonna be like an upset. People gonna expect the Eagles to win and dominate. It's almost like something that the Saints typically do in the playoffs, like what we did to the Vikings that one year, where people was expecting us to win and like we just
Minnesota Miracle or the
no
other year?
the one after that, in 2019,
where Breeze kept trying to throw the ball to Michael Thomas every play, and they were just doubling him, and he
yeah,
went through to the other open receivers.
yes.
Yeah, I know the game you're talking about.
Because wasn't that the same year Michael Thomas broke that record for the most catches?
I think it was. I think it was the same season, and for the most part, teams knew that Breeze was going to just target Thomas.
He had that
And the
noodle.
Vikings literally they just doubled him the whole game, and they left other receivers open, especially one from the Carolina Panthers. The fast one that was the punt returner.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Huh?
Emmanuel Sanders.
No. So he was a speedster. Even though the Saints got him, he was passing. He was on the back end. Yeah, Ted Ginn Jr. They doubled him a lot. They doubled Michael Thomas, and they just because Ginn was known for dropping passes.
Yeah,
they would leave him open and leave some of the other receivers open, but they focused and they keyed in on Thomas, and And I'm not gonna lie, Breezer was trying to just stick it to him all the time, and they didn't play their best game, and the Vikings upset them in that game.
Yeah.
But in terms of like first, going back to the chat, Jay Barr said the in-season tournament was just another way for the NBA to kiss up to LeBron.
Yeah.
He was saying the in-season tournament was whack, and he put laughing out loud. But in terms of my prediction in terms of the NFL season just in general, I think it's clear cut and it's transparent, and as obviously at this point, Lamar Jackson is the league MVP. So, with Kimberly A. Martin, this whole ESPN rhetoric against, black athletes, she basically was acting like Cam Newton is retarded. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The way he dresses, he's a weirdo, whatever the case may be. But Cam Newton won league MVP in the NFL. So I think he's a more credible NFL analyst than she is because he actually played the game. He played at a high level, won national championship, college player of the year, MVP in the NFL, nearly won a Super Bowl. He just ran up against a dog defense with the Broncos. So he has far more credibility than she has. She's a female. She never played in the NFL. So how you going to just try to discredit this man? And I think he was right. I think players like Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa, some people think Tua is like a franchise-type quarterback. But I think more than anything, I think, he said, hey, players like Lamar Jackson, they game changers and people like Brock Purdy are game managers. So I think it's clear and it's transparent at this point. Lamar Jackson is our league MVP. I think that's first and foremost. I think he's going to lead the Ravens to the Super Bowl. I disagree with you when it comes to the Eagles. I'm going to be truthful. If I had to choose between Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I think the Eagles defense is, when they're at the top of their game, they're a problem. If the Bucks do make the playoffs over the Saints, Bucks ain't going nowhere. Bucks going to go home in the first round. In addition to that, again, the Cowboys. They kind of like the Saints. You think, oh, yeah, the Cowboys going to win the NFC. The Cowboys going to get to maybe the second round. They're going to slip on a banana peel. They're going to be out of there. And in terms of Brock Purdy, I mean, he pretty much showed you. Lamar Jackson, that guy, but Cam Newton was 100% accurate. Like my brother Jared Lovin Green said, yes, everyone owes Cam Newton an apology. Hey, Lamar Jackson, that guy, but Brock Purdy is a game manager. And the thing about it is, Cam Newton said this. He said, look at Tua. Look at the weapons he got around him. You got Tyreek Hill. You got weapons. And even if you look at Brock Purdy, he got Deebo Samuel. He got Christian McCaffrey. He got George Kittle. So, truthfully speaking, really, the way things played out, it kind of make it look like, guess what? Cam Newton was 100% accurate. Me personally, I see the Eagles and the Ravens, making it to the Super Bowl. I got Lamar Jackson not only winning league MVP, but Super Bowl MVP. I think the Ravens, I think they're the team to beat. Hopefully, as long as I think Lamar Jackson bring his A game week in and week out, he stays healthy. I think they're gonna roll in the AFC, but I think the NFC is more wide open. But if I had to put my money on any team in the NFC with their defense and Jalen Hurts on offense, I think the Eagles are the team to beat. And my brother Jay Barr, he said, if the Saints get rid of Dennis Allen, who would you guys like to be the next coach? Me personally, I already said it. I said it multiple times. I think the fact that we live in South Louisiana, I'm gonna be truthful. I don't think, teams, especially, I know for certain, definitely not LSU. I think the Saints kind of fit in that same category. I can't see the Saints having a black head coach, but if it was me personally, I would choose Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy will be my guy. I think they need an offensive guy. Dennis Allen is more of a defensive-minded head coach. I think they kind of need more weapons. I mean, if you could get somebody like a Patrick Queen to go along with Demario Davis, you let Honey Badger ride. Raymond and I, we kind of had this back and forth with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but truthfully speaking, I don't think they're going to have the kind of cheese to afford him. But if they could get a strong safety that could kind of have his swagger and bring his impact to the defense, and I'm going to be truthful, even somebody like Lattimore, Lattimore getting long in the tooth. Cam Jordan's getting long in the tooth. I think if they could get some younger, fresher legs in there, I think they already doing it with the secondary with Taylor and Adebo and those kind of guys. I think the secondary trending in the right direction, but I think in terms of like your linebackers, Pete Warren, I think he's overrated in my estimation. Damari, I think he still got a little juice in the tank, but he a little older. So in terms of answering Jay Ball's question, who would you like to see if they got rid of Jenkins Allen, who would you prefer to be the next head coach?
For me personally, it would either be out of Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick, because I think Mike Tomlin gonna part ways with the Steelers too, right?
Yeah, and that's something our other brother Brent Fox he brought up on his show, Steeler Nation. They trying to get rid of him, but that's an excellent point. I'm gonna be truthful. You brought up, you changed my mind, man. I'm not even gonna lie. If I had to pick between Bieniemy and Tomlin, bro, Tomlin showed he is that guy.
Yes.
I mean, the Steelers would be stupid to let him go. I mean, even our brother Jerry Levin Green, he a Ravens fan, but he said, hey, guess what? If they could get Mike Tomlin tomorrow, he'd go for that.
Right.
Hey, if the Steelers would be stupid to let him go. And I'm gonna be truthful. Some people, my barber used to say this all the time. Hey, Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach all the time. I'm like, dude, he got one of the greatest quarterbacks of us.
And it showed.
I'm like, see, that's a little bit before your time, but when he was the head coach for the Browns.
Yeah, I was just watching that with him and Nick Saban. Nick Saban was coaching with him.
Yeah, they did nothing. And really, truthfully speaking, until Drew Bledsoe ran and he got smacked on the sideline against the Jets. Until that point, guess what? They weren't doing anything. Had Bledsoe now got hurt and Brady not come in, that really kind of changed Belichick's fortune, because guess what? He was on a high seat at that point for the Patriots. They won't get rid of him then.
So Tom, my bad, cut you off. So I know Tom Brady wasn't that good in college, and he wasn't drafted high or nothing. But Tom Brady basically ended up becoming the GOAT that he is based off of somebody's injury. So if Drew Bledsoe would have never got hurt, we probably would have never found out how great Tom Brady is.
Well, I'm gonna be truthful. If you look at the whole arc of the New England Patriots, a lot of it is stuff that just kind of time was perfect, everything came together. But truthfully speaking, a lot of players on the team, they wanted. Now, to say Brady was a scrub, I'm not gonna lie. He wasn't no scrub in Michigan. They had his other quarterback. His name was Drew Henson, right? He was a major league prospect. I think he was like a pitcher or something, but he was kind of like this highly touted 5-star type quarterback. And Brady kind of was like, average guy, average Joe, And the truth and the thing about it is, Henson kept getting in these spots and he was choking, and then Brady had to come bail him out. Even in the bowl game that year, like his last year at Michigan, I don't even think he started that game. I think Henson started, and Henson choked, and the players, they were behind him then at Michigan. He came back, he brought him back, and he led them to a win. So he wasn't highly touted coming in. He wasn't like this five. I think if he'd have been a 5-star guy and he ended up doing what he's doing, people would be like, yeah, but since he wasn't, and then even when he got to the combine, he ran like a 5.1 or 5 flat. It was something like terrible in a 40, athletic ability and everything. It was just kind of on the low side. So he didn't test well. Now, when he got to the Patriots, like a lot of players, they say they kind of saw it in him. They wanted Belichick to go with him. Belichick really wanted to go with him. But since you invested all this money in Bledsoe, in the fact that, he had kind of been around, he was a veteran guy. I ain't gonna say he was a star, but he was kind of like a lower tier type star. He'd already been on Super Bowl, this, that, and the third, whatever. So, when he got hit, it just kind of changed everything. And then even people don't realize, when they won that first Super Bowl, Brady was good, but Brady, even then, he was more of a game manager. He later became like a franchise quarterback, but for that first Super Bowl, it was more defense and running game that kind of carried him. And he just kind of made it key points in the game. He made like timely plays And then, of course, the tuck rule game. I don't care what nobody say. The Raiders won that game. They got screwed out of that game. So the Raiders won that game. So the tuck rule went their way. And once they got the momentum, they brought in overtime. And then they won in overtime. And then the rest kind of history. But a lot of things just kind of went the Patriots' way for them to have the dynasty they had. And Jay Barr, he also pointed out, Tomlin will establish a winning culture. And I think that's one of the things people don't realize. He not only does Mike Tomlin put like players in the right positions, and he an excellent coach, but he brought in a winning culture to the Steelers. It took him a while, but once he got things going, I'm gonna be truthful. I think, truthfully speaking, I think he probably the best coach in the NFL. I mean, that's high praise. I know some people like Andy Reid, some people like this guy, that guy. I think Mike Tomlin. People, I think the Steelers fans really wouldn't realize what they're missing until he on.
Right.
And I think that's the thing about it. So before we close the show, anything you want to address in terms of wrapping up this particular topic? So, Raymond, tell people where they could find you and how they can get in contact with you.
Ray Swank on YouTube, King Ray on Instagram. That's where y'all can find me. Enjoyed the show today. Enjoyed the comments. Shout out to everybody that gave their input and comments in the comment section. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all.
Yeah, and before I close out on my end, I saw you got a new subscriber last night to your YouTube channel. So you got one extra subscriber, probably from the show or whatever, but that's another story. Of course, you can catch me at Coach 67 Sports TV on all social media platforms, on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, but primarily here on YouTube at Coach 67 Sports TV. I also have a backup channel, Coach 67 Sports TV, too, where I do where I have like a vlog that I really hadn't started yet, where I do bloopers and outtakes from videos I messed up that I didn't get uploaded here. For my Southern University fans, I'm getting ready to start something special this coming week, so stay tuned for that. Again, like Rama said, appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us. My brother Jared 11 Green, Jay Barr, everybody in the chat, everybody that came in to show some love and support. Shout out to the brother Jordan Turner who just subscribed to the channel. Appreciate you, appreciate everybody that's, been rocking with us, been supporting us. We're going to catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal weekend. We'll catch y'all next weekend. Y'all have a blessed and phenomenal weekend, blessed and phenomenal work week. Peace and blessings.